The following program is sponsored by CBN.
Coming up, an anniversary celebration
It couldn't get any better.
that didn't quite go according to plan.
I said, is anything wrong?
I just said, Dave, I've lost all my feelings for you.
Watch as this couple comes clean.
She screams at me, marrying you is the biggest mistake of my life.
He said, you're absolutely right.
And see what saved their marriage
It was 2 words, shut up.
on today's 700 Club.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the 700 Club. The president said he's going to deport millions of illegal aliens. He's launched a campaign in Orlando, trailing badly in the poll. He's facing 24 Democrats. Many of them are actually beating him in the poll. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has the latest early numbers.
President Trump officially jumps in the race today, and if recent polling holds true, he has a lot of ground to make up. Former Vice President Joe Biden not only leads the Democratic field, but he has a 10-point advantage over the president.
And I believe we can win Texas and Florida if you look at the polling data now.
According to a new CBS Battleground poll of early contest states, Joe Biden holds a double-digit lead against Democrat primary opponents, with Senators Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Kamala Harris taking the other top spots.
I plan, and if I'm your nominee, winning Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, believe it or not.
CNN reports the Trump campaign severed ties with several pollsters last week after information of internal polls leaked to the press.
If I thought they were correct, I wouldn't be complaining at all.
Those March surveys showed the president trailing Biden by double digits in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and 7 points in Florida, where Trump will officially announce his re-election campaign Tuesday. Trump's campaign manager, Brad Parscale, dismissed those polls as ancient in a statement, adding the campaign has seen huge swings in the president's favor since March. But even Fox News released a poll Sunday showing Trump trailing behind 5 Democrat candidates in hypothetical matchups.
I frankly don't even believe in pollsters, if you want to know the truth. You just run a campaign, and whatever it is, it is. But I just had a meeting with somebody that's a pollster, and I'm winning everywhere.
Julia Manchester, a congressional reporter for The Hill, noted on Monday's Faith Nation.
These are national polls, and I think one big lesson we learned from 2016 is that national polls don't tell the whole story all the time.
The president laid out his pitch with swing voters to ABC's George Stephanopoulos.
Safety, security, great economy. Frankly, I think we're going to do tremendously now with African Americans, with Asians, with Hispanics, because they have the lowest unemployment numbers they've ever had in the history of the country.
But Democrat candidate Pete Buttigieg disagrees.
We are working very hard to engage people across the party, but especially black voters. We have a moment on our hands when we can do the exact opposite of what the president has done. The president has used identity as a wedge, used race as a wedge to divide people who have common interests.
For now, the 2020 Democrat contenders appear united in going after President Trump instead of each other. That could quickly change as they start facing off in debates next week. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thanks, Abigail. Well, they used to tell me the only poll that really counts is the one on Election Day when you get those real numbers. Up to this point, a lot of polls can be wrong. They sure were wrong the last time in predicting that Hillary Clinton would sweep to the victory when it turned out that Trump won. And I remember that they were talking about there's no path to victory. And I was with John Wagee and our team, and we figured a very clear path to victory in the Midwest, in states like Wisconsin and others, and we were calling that. And listen, Fox News and the others were just totally wrong, and we had the goods, and we knew that Trump was going to win, but it was a clear thing. This time, who knows? Well, on the eve of this campaign, President Trump announced a sweeping new immigration initiative. John Jessup has more on that.
That is right, Pat. President Trump says beginning next week, ICE agents will start deporting millions of migrants living in the United States illegally. In a Monday night tweet, he said they'll be removed as fast as they come in. One administration official says the push will focus on the more than 1 million people who've been ordered by federal judges to leave the country. The president also tweeted that Guatemala is ready to help stem the flow of migrants from Central America, consenting to sign an agreement forcing asylum seekers to make their claims in that country rather than allowing them to travel on through Mexico. No confirmation yet from the government of Guatemala. All this comes as migrants detained at the U.S. border is slowing. The number of family units dropping by about 13% in June. Border officials believe the decrease may come in response to Mexico working to stop the flow of migrants into its country. While the U.S. is sending 1,000 additional troops to the Middle East. Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan saying the new forces will bolster security to protect against land, sea, and air-based threats, as well as provide more intelligence and surveillance. The news comes as Iran is threatening to exceed limits on uranium enrichment, breaking its agreement and stepping one step closer to making a nuclear weapon. The State Department said the threats amount to what's called nuclear extortion. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo adding that the Trump administration doesn't want war, but is prepared to do what's necessary to keep Iran from developing a nuclear weapon.
The president will consider everything we need to do to make sure, right? What's the president said? We don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. The previous administration put them on a pathway that virtually guaranteed that they could get there. So we withdrew from the ridiculous JCPOA and are moving ourselves towards a set of policies which will convince Iran to behave simply like a normal nation.
Meanwhile, the Defense Department is releasing new images of what it says are Iranian boats removing a mine from one of the tankers attacked in the Gulf of Oman last week. Iran denies any involvement in those attacks. Well, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is calling on the Trump administration to end its trade war with China, warning tariffs could cost $1 trillion over the next 10 years. The country's largest business group wants existing tariffs reversed and the proposed tariffs on $300 billion in Chinese goods called off. This as more than 600 other companies and trade associations, including Walmart and Target, signed a letter addressed to the U.S. Trade Representative's office. The businesses say there are better alternatives that wouldn't hurt the American economy. Trump has already imposed 25% tariffs on more than $250 billion of goods from China. Pat, back to you.
You know, they say tariffs are a blunt weapon, and they don't really accomplish what you need to do because it's tit for tat. They raise tariffs, we raise tariffs, so you have what looks like a trade war. The biggest problem with China is the theft of intellectual property. They are stealing us blind. And every company, the company that goes to do business in China is forced to turn over all kinds of confidential information to the Chinese, which in turn use that to create very, very sophisticated devices that they in turn use against us. That's where the deal needs to be, and they need to squeeze on China. China, as big as it is very vulnerable. The Chinese economy is not really as robust as they want to make us believe, and they are really would be amenable to some serious pressure. But I think pressure with tariffs is the wrong way to go, but maybe the president needed a blunt weapon, and that's what he felt he had to use. John?
Well, Pat, speaking of China, Hong Kong's leader is backing down in the face of huge protests over her support of an extradition agreement with China. But as Dale Hurd reports, there is still concern mainland China is determined to steadily chip away at Hong Kong's freedoms.
An extradition bill that would have sent criminal suspects to communist China for prosecution seems to be dead for now. But Hong Kong's student protest movement against the heavy-handed rule of Beijing has come back to life. Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam has apologized for the extradition bill that set off the massive protests, but said she would not resign. This after millions turned out to protest what they believe to be an attempt by China to further erode their independence. As a British colony, Hong Kong had political, religious, and economic freedom, and it grew into one of the major financial powerhouses in the world. When the UK turned Hong Kong over to China in 1997, those freedoms were supposed to be protected, but residents see the extradition law as one of a series of attempts to take them away.
The extradition law will really is a threat to the judicial and legal independence of Hong Kong from mainland China.
The last British governor of Hong Kong, Chris Patten, said the West needs to stand up to Chinese attempts to demolish what he called the firewall between Hong Kong and mainland China.
We should make it clear that this is not a policy or a succession of policies which we're prepared to stand by and ignore.
Some have characterized the conflict between China and Hong Kong as a conflict between communism and Christianity. And an unofficial anthem of the protest was Sing Hallelujah to the Lord. A key protest leader who is a Christian, Joshua Wong, says China's extradition plan has blown up in its face, reigniting the protest movement against the dictatorial rule from China.
Beijing and Carrie Lam transform whole generation of youngsters from normal citizen to dissident. That's the price that Beijing must pay.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Hong Kong will be on the agenda when President Trump meets with Chinese President Xi at the G20 summit in 10 days.
The president's always been a vigorous defender of human rights. He's going to get the opportunity, I think, to see President Xi in just what will be a couple of weeks now in Osaka, Japan at the G20 summit. I'm sure this will be among the issues that they discuss.
Optimists will see in this protest victory the hope that Hong Kong residents can stand up to China. But pessimists have long predicted that democracy in Hong Kong would eventually die after the 1997 handover to China, and that it's only a matter of time. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thanks, Dale. A new Supreme Court decision is being called a win for religious freedom. CBN News has told you about the Kleins, two Oregon bakers who were fined for refusing to make a cake for a gay wedding. The legal fight over the case went all the way to the High Court, which threw out a previous ruling against the Kleins, sending the case back down to a federal court in Oregon. The justices say that court needs to reconsider the case in light of a more recent ruling in favor of a Colorado baker who refused to make a cake for a same-sex wedding. Kelly Shackelford, chief counsel to First Liberty, who represented the Kleins, calls the decision a victory for the religious liberty of all Americans, saying, quote, "The Constitution protects speech, popular or not, from condemnation by the government. The message from the court is clear. Government hostility towards religious Americans, Pat, will not be tolerated."
Well, I think those decisions are good. I hope they stand with them. The court really, John Roberts was a strong conservative. The American Center for Law and Justice had worked on cases with him, and he was a good friend, and we were very happy to see the way he was going. But it looks like he has begun to waver somewhat in his conservative views on things, and we're just not sure where the court is going these days. We thought there was a clear conservative majority with Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on the bench along with John Roberts. We don't know for sure right now, but anyhow, there'll be another appointment, and when that one comes, believe me, there'll be fireworks. Terry?
Well, coming up, more than 1 million Muslims have been welcomed into Germany.
To import Jew haters into Germany while knowing it is an anti-Jewish act by the Chancellor of Germany herself.
The stunning rise of anti-Semitism almost 75 years after World War II.
You know, at the end of World War II, when we saw the horrors of Dachau and Birkenwald and Auschwitz and Hitler's so-called final solution to the Jewish question when he tried literally to exterminate every Jew living in Europe, we all said, never again. We said it over and over again. It'll never happen. We cannot allow this kind of hatred and bitterness to arise. Well, earlier this month, we marked the 75th year of the invasion which liberated Europe from Hitler. But today, in the lifetime of those who survived the Second World War and saw firsthand the Nazi death camps, the terror, the specter of anti-Semitism is again a threat to Jews in Germany. Why did it happen? Because Angela Merkel has allowed hundreds of thousands of Muslims into the country, and almost to a person, to a man and woman, they are vicious anti-Semites. Dale Hurd has this.
This isn't the Middle East, it's Germany, where Muslims now outnumber Jews 50-1, and where for the first time since the Nazi regime, Jewish leaders are warning that it's too dangerous to wear the kippah or Jewish cap in some areas.
And me, myself, I wouldn't wear a kippah. Unfortunately, it's not safe. Maybe I hope that it will be safe in future, or maybe it was safe in the past, but right now, in 2019, no, it is not safe at all, unfortunately.
A magazine even printed a paper kippah for all Germans to wear, to show solidarity with Jews. The German government and media say the threat to Jews comes equally from the far right and from Muslim immigrants. And while there is a dangerous neo-Nazi movement in Germany that hates Jews, Chancellor Angela Merkel's welcome of more than 1 million Muslims from countries with anti-Semitic cultures has caused some Jews to join the so-called far right for protection. This is Germany's third largest political party, AfD, or Alternative for Germany, which the left-dominated German media brands as Nazi, although its platform looks a lot like the Republican Party in America. It has shown stronger support for Israel than any other major German party, and now has a chapter called Jews in the AfD. At their first meeting, members sang Ose Shalom. So why would Jews join a so-called Nazi party? Maybe they don't think it's Nazi. Or maybe they think they face a more serious threat. The German media treats Jews in the AfD as a publicity stunt. Jewish groups have warned that AfD is no friend of the Jews. The founder of the group, Bernhard Krauskopf, has been denounced as a Jewish Nazi.
Look, when the media tells you that the AfD is a Nazi party, and when the media looks for some Nazis, which we have, like all the parties in Germany, this is nothing special about the AfD. The left consists of Jew haters. Not all of them, but the majority of them. Yes, we have some of those people. We try to get rid of them. It's not so easy because we have free speech.
But AfD leaders have said some disturbing things. Bjorn Höcke called Berlin's Holocaust Memorial a memorial of disgrace and said Germans should stop feeling guilty. Alexander Gauland said that Hitler and the Nazis are just a speck of bird poop in over 1,000 years of successful German history. Krauskopf says he doesn't like those comments, but he says what Angela Merkel has done to make Germany unsafe for Jews is far worse.
To import Jew haters into Germany while knowing it is an anti-Jewish act. That's not just, some memorial. This is reducing our security in Germany by the Chancellor of Germany herself.
There were never a lot of Jews in Germany. Even before the Nazis, Jews were less than 1% of the population. And almost 75 years after the defeat of the Nazis, Jews in Germany still only number about 115,000. And they're feeling increasingly outnumbered and in danger because of Muslim immigration, which Krauskopf says is far worse than the German government will admit.
They are playing it on. They are lying. They are no other word. They are lying about it. So there are lots of excuses, and the situation gets worse every day because the government has lost control. Jew haters have been imported. You know these are Jew haters. So now you have no excuses like the normal excuse was after World War II. Yeah, but we didn't know that this would happen. We didn't know. You know it now.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, Berlin.
Well, you remember the Mufti, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, said that he wanted to finish what the Nazis had started. The Muslims don't exactly want to live in peace with their Jewish neighbors. Don't kid yourself. Well, Terry, some good things are going to find out about marriage.
Well, ultimately, yes. Up next, a husband leans over to kiss his wife on their 10th anniversary.
She's like, sort of turned her head. I remember looking at her and said, is anything wrong?
I just said, Dave, I've lost all my feelings for you.
Here are the 2 words that saved this marriage coming up. Dave Wilson thought his marriage was wonderful. His wife, Ann, felt lonelier married to Dave than when she was single. On the night of their 10th anniversary, their relationship came to a head when Ann dropped a bomb on Dave.
I, at the time, thought, our marriage is wonderful. My wife loves me. She loves what we're doing. It couldn't get any better.
Pastor Dave Wilson and his wife Ann had been married 10 years when he decided to pull out all the stops for their anniversary. He started with a dinner at an elegant restaurant.
He has a rose delivered to the table, one at a time, and after each rose arrived, we talk about that year in our relationship.
I just thought this is a great way to celebrate all that God's done in 10 years.
After dinner, Dave had one more surprise. He drove Ann to the school where they were about to launch their new church.
I thought it'd be fun, to park in this parking lot and pray. And then I just thought it'd be fun to go park it. I, leaned over to kiss Ann.
I had this dread in my heart, like, oh no.
She's like, sort of turned her head. I remember looking at her and said, is anything wrong?
I just said, Dave, I've lost all my feelings for you.
Dave and Ann's marriage had been in trouble before. They only dated for 9 months before marrying in May of 1980.
We didn't have any issues dating those 9 months, which put us into this thought of, oh, it's so easy. As long as you have Jesus at the forefront of your relationship, everything is smooth.
The honeymoon was wonderful. And then as soon as we got home and sort of started our life and started our ministry, it got really hard.
Conflicts turned into shouting matches, each refusing to give ground. Just 6 months into the marriage, they both had regrets.
We're driving to Nebraska where we were going to become the chaplain of the Nebraska Cornhuskers in ministry there. And she screams at me, marrying you is the biggest mistake of my life.
He said, you're absolutely right. And I remember thinking, I must have married the wrong person and the right person must be out there. Now what do I do?
We didn't talk about getting a divorce, but I know she had those thoughts and I had those thoughts. We're followers of Christ. He wants us to figure out how to make this work. We gotta figure out how to get this marriage to work.
Ironically, they started counseling young married couples at the University of Nebraska. In the process, their own marriage began to heal.
We started teaching it, we started talking about it, we started internalizing it, we started to learn how to resolve conflict, we started to take steps. And over the next several years, our marriage was transformed. Not perfectly, but man, oh man, we got to a place where we actually loved each other and loved marriage.
They spent the next 5 years the picture of a happily married couple, eventually starting a family. Then, they moved to Detroit. Dave became the chaplain for the Detroit Lions and got to work on his dream of starting his own church. But that left Ann spending many lonely hours raising their 2 boys.
He'd walk out the door and I would say things like, seriously? You're leaving again and I'm gonna be here alone? I hope our boys remember who you are.
Ann was saying all the kind of things that I should have heard. I just sort of compartmentalized and put it aside like, well, we're better than I think we are.
I started out super angry and then I was resentful, bitter. And then after a while, I was numb and I didn't even care that he was gone.
Still, Ann tried for years to be a supportive wife.
I felt lonelier in my marriage than as a single person, and my husband was sleeping right beside me.
Sitting in a parking lot on their 10th anniversary, Ann told Dave how she felt. He says his first impulse was to defend himself until God spoke to him.
It was 2 words, shut up. That's all he said, shut up.
And so I started sharing my heart. I said, I started out so angry, Dave, that you were always gone, that we weren't a team anymore. And then my anger turned to bitterness. My bitterness turned to resentment. And then my resentment turned to nothing. I don't even have hope that we're going to make it.
Then, God showed them that both had lost sight of who should be first in their lives.
And I heard the voice of God one more time, almost miraculously, and it was one word, and it was repent.
And he starts to pray.
God, I repent. I'm lukewarm. You're not number one. I preach it. I tell others to do it, and I'm not living it. And that needs to stop right here, right now. And I'm putting you back in control of my life. And I'm asking you to make me the husband she longs for and the dad my boys deserve, and help save this marriage.
I was instantly convicted because I felt like God was saying, Ann Wilson, you have been trying to find your life through Dave. You have been trying to find your happiness, your purpose, and all of your identity through your husband and your marriage. I never created him to fill all your needs. That is my job.
As Dave and Ann began focusing on God, everything else started falling into place.
And as a result of him being first, the other things flow out of that.
You're only going to be able to find life and happiness and joy and purpose, and you name it, from Jesus.
I feel like I love Dave more now than I've ever loved him before.
Dave and Ann have written a book, Vertical Marriage. They also lead marriage seminars and now host a radio show stressing the secret to a successful marriage is keeping God first.
We try to find our life and happiness horizontally, whether it's a person, a relationship, your marriage, and none of that's ever going to truly satisfy. The ache in our soul will never be satisfied by a person or anything on this earth. It's only satisfied by going vertical, by a relationship with Christ.
There's always hope. If God can resurrect his son from the dead, he can resurrect a dead marriage.
Well, that's an amen. Ann and Dave Wilson know what they're talking about, and their book, as I've mentioned, is called Vertical Marriage. It's filled with hard-won experience and wisdom for couples who are struggling in their marriage and for ones who just want to make their relationship better. The book is available wherever books are sold. We want to say, if your marriage is in trouble, we would love to pray with you. All you have to do is just call the number on your screen. It's toll-free, 1-800-700-7000. There's a friend on the other end who'd love to pray with you today. And also, we have a free booklet for you. It's called Love and Marriage, and we'd love to send it to you upon request. Again, you get it by calling 1-800-700-7000. No finances involved. You just call and say, I'd like the Love and Marriage pamphlet, and I'd like some prayer today. You can also log on to cbn.com. Pat?
I've got the secret after 65 years.
Well, share quickly.
Simple word, whatever makes you happy, dear.
I'm for that. I think that works. Sounds like a great idea.
All right. Well, still ahead, we've got your email questions. Brittany has written in to say, look, is there any way the devil could enter into our dreams and plant false images? I got your questions and honest answers coming up later.
Welcome back to Washington for this CBN Newsbreak. Lawmakers in Massachusetts proposed a bill expanding access to abortion Monday. If passed, the Roe Act would eliminate all criminal penalties for abortion and would legalize abortion after 24 weeks in some cases. Under the law, pregnant teens seeking an abortion would not need their parents' permission. The bill would also redefine abortion and pregnancy by deleting any references to a fetus as an unborn child. Well, turning overseas, former Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi died in a courtroom Monday. The 67-year-old collapsed during a trial on espionage charges. In 2012, Morsi was Egypt's first democratically elected president after the expulsion of Hosni Mubarak. He was also a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, an Islamist group seeking to restore a global Islamic caliphate. Some nations, including Egypt, have labeled the Brotherhood a terrorist group. The military overthrew Morsi in 2013 and outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
You know, CBN is broadcasting the good news of Jesus Christ in about 200 countries, and we are seeing hundreds of millions of people come to the Lord. But you know, it doesn't happen just because we're nice people. It happens, among other things, by the grace of God, but by people like the one I'm going to introduce to you, giving generously to support this ministry. It's very important, and you know, so I want you to know that you are very special. Now I'd like you to meet Linda Talboom. Linda loves helping people, and inside her hair salon, she styles wigs for cancer patients. Well, Linda and her husband, Vern, also help drill wells and provide medical care to the needy all over the world. And how do they do it? Right from the Talboom's living room.
Wisconsin native Linda Talboom has been styling hair for over 50 years. She's now retired from her job as a salon owner, but every now and then she styles wigs for cancer patients.
One of my customers came down with cancer, so I found her a wig that was her color and could fix it and cut it in the style she liked. She just loved it, so I got hooked.
That's not the only way Linda supports others. She and her husband Vern have been giving to CBN for over 40 years because they share CBN's vision.
The one I love the most is when they've had the fixed hair lips on children. To me, for a child, to have to walk around with something like that, you know, and then have the CBN come in and fix that, that just means a lot to me.
You see people drilling wells, and they're just involved in everything that the world needs.
The Talbooms say their support of CBN has had another effect. Because of their giving, they've been blessed in their own lives.
God says, will you rob God? When we don't give to him, we're robbing him. And it's like putting money into pockets with holes in them. And I think before we started giving, that's how it was. It's just like he took our money and just stretched it.
It's not my money, it's the Lord's money. He's provided it.
When Vern isn't working, he catches up on the latest episode of his favorite Bible cartoon, Superbook.
We got great-grandchildren that's growing up, and the kids love it. I just like the way they present it to young people to see it. And of course, I'm not young anymore, but I just enjoy watching them.
Today, both Vern and Linda are retired. They're still looking for more opportunities to help out, and they encourage others to do the same.
You really don't have nothing to lose to help CBN, help other people. Just give up an extra cup of coffee or eating out one night.
You can't afford not to. If we believe God is who he says he is, then we have to take him at his word, because that's faith. If we tithe, he'll pour out a blessing so big we won't be able to contain it. And that's been true in our life.
I tell you, Vern and Linda, the salt of the earth, godly people, and the Lord has placed people like them, and they are able to join hands with hundreds of thousands of others. And as a result, there's a ministry here that can reach out to the whole world and lead millions to faith, build water wells, help the poor, take care of the sick and the needy, and all the other things we do. Now listen, we'd love you to be the 700 Club member, just like Wes and Linda are. We have something called The Plan. It's a DVD that Scott Ross and I did, and we talk about God's plan for you, how you can know what his plan is for your life. And this DVD has really gotten quite a lot of acclaim. The people just seem to love it. And Terry, you've got a report.
I do. This is from John and Karen. They live in Brighton, Michigan, and they said, we thank you for sending the plan. We were blessed. We learned some very important principles about positive confession and thankfulness. And I mean, those are keys to seeing God's purposes come to fruition.
Folks, it's real simple. It's 65 cents a day. It's not a fortune, but together it makes up a fortune. So $20 a month, you can be a 700 Club member. And please call. The number's available. And we'll ask you to call 1-800-700-7000. It's easy to remember, 700-7000. And 1-800 puts you in a toll-free, but it's a toll-free call. And somebody's standing by right now, love you, wants to hear the good news of what you've done, laugh with you, cry with you, pray with you, but also write down any pledge you want to make. And if you don't want to make a pledge, you can still call because we're there for you. Terry?
Well, up next, all-star center fielder Charlie Blackmon.
The home runs make the game go round. But I think scoring a run when the other team thinks they're going to get out unscathed can really do a lot for your psyche and then get the momentum coming your way.
And what's behind his beard? You'll find out. That's coming up. Plus, we have your questions and some honest answers ready. Christina says, I hate that I have to ask my husband if I need some money for an appointment for the kids or gas, etc. Do you have any suggestions for me? Well, all this and more. Pat's going to tackle it, so stay tuned. We'll be back. There is no hitter in baseball right now hotter than Charlie Blackmon. In the last few days, he's put up video game numbers, 21 hits, 6 home runs, and a .568 batting average. And now he's the reigning National League Player of the Week. Our Tom Buehring talked with the Rockies leadoff hitter about what motivates him both on and off the field.
Come to Denver and you'll find a baseball swashbuckler. Rockies All-Star center fielder Charlie Blackmon rattles opponents with an elite bat, prize power, base running speed, and of course, that beard. On and off the field, the guy they call Chuck Nasty holds a great first impression.
First man up as a leadoff hitter, you're the tone setter, tip of the spear. What is it about the role that you relish the most?
I like being the first guy to go to the plate. I'm going to get the most at-bats that night. I'm kind of the first representative of the Rockies out there. If I do well and get on base, we have a good chance to score because we have such good players behind me. So I really enjoy being the catalyst of sorts.
And as the playmaker, what one play as a hitter or fielder most energizes you?
Well, I got to say home runs because the home runs make the game go round. Maybe the next best thing is a 2-out RBI because that's just such a big momentum shifter. Momentum is not something people talk about in baseball, but I think scoring a run when the other team thinks they're going to get out unscathed can really do a lot for your psyche and then get the momentum coming your way.
And the beard, that's a tone setter, right?
Right.
And are you now convinced that the two of you are inseparable?
I showed up at spring training in 2014 and made the team for the first time with my beard, and so I decided to stick with it, and I was lucky enough to make the All-Star team that year. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I just kept it, and it's something that I enjoy.
How have you learned to separate defeat from your self-worth?
For me, spiritually, realizing that, baseball is something that I spend a lot of time doing, but you can't turn baseball into an idol. What you derive your self-worth from, it has to be something you do, not who you are. And once I figured all those things out, honestly, baseball seemed a lot smaller to me. But with the ups and downs and the struggles of failure that are gonna happen inevitably within the game of baseball.
We said you're the tone setter out there. Who and what is the tone setter for Charlie Blackmon?
I ask for a grateful heart every day, and even when it seems tough, you should rejoice in being tested. Everything needs to be an opportunity in my eyes and not an obstacle.
Charlie, what do you admire most about the Christ that you follow?
The love that he has for me, even though I don't deserve it. That grace is something that I try to understand. It's hard to comprehend. I try and learn more about him every day, and I just want to represent our God in what I do on the field, how I treat people, and what I'm thinking all the time also. I think that's very important.
Also important is Charlie's reputation as an independent thinker who values genuine Christian commitment.
I think it's very important for a few reasons. Be honest with yourself. You've got to earnestly believe. And then if you believe it, then you have to live it out, right? Like if you actually believe Jesus is who he says he is and that he died for our sins, then you can't just ignore that fact and go on doing whatever you feel like you're doing. Authenticity is going to show up. People are going to find you out, if you're just talking the talk and not walking the walk.
How can we pray for you when we think of you and watch you?
Good question. Every day I think humility is big. Like I need humility. And then I also need to stop thinking about myself so much. I need to be more concerned about other people, the people that I'm around, the people I interact with, even the people that I'm playing against. And so maybe just that faith to step out and speak to someone or help someone who might need it.
It's a good word from Charlie Blackmon, a Colorado rock.
Yeah, it's good.
Great, all-time great. Well, we've got some email questions.
Let's go
Ready?
for it. All right.
Okay, Pat, this first one comes from Brittany, who says, is there any way the devil could enter into our dreams and plant false images and or testimony?
Let me tell you, there is no question. They are demonic spirits, and especially when you're asleep and vulnerable, they will try to put false things in your mind. I'm writing a book about having walked with the Lord, and there's some instances I'm in that book where demonic spirits tried to implant things into my mind. You ask me, can it be possible? It happens very much so. So you've got to be careful. If you have a thought, it's not because of your dear wife or your dear husband or your mother-in-law or your employer. A lot of this stuff comes from the devil. And there are demonic forces, whether you call evil spirits or demons, they're very, very prevalent in the world. And the answer is yes, they can implant thoughts in your mind, all right?
So when that happens in a dream, and it's how you say that you've struggled, you've had that.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do?
Well, in my case, I struggle to get awake. And when I do, I rebuke the spirit. I realize what it is happening. And I say, I rebuke you, devil and the forces of evil, leave me alone. And they will do it if you're filled with God's power. Mm-hmm. But if you don't know the Holy Spirit, you are super vulnerable. You need to be as filled with God's power as the devil is filled with his power. And the Lord has all the authority in heaven and earth. And so he says, go and teach all nations. I'm giving you the authority. I've got it. I have authority over these spirits. All right.
Okay, this is Christina, who says, Dear Pat, my husband and I both come from failed marriages and have been hurt in the past. I'm self-employed, work from home when I can, and homeschool one of my 2 kids. My husband wants me to cover the cost of groceries and my own gas with my own money. I have to ask him if I need some money for an appointment for the kids or gas, etc. This upsets him, and he begrudgingly gives me some to cover the immediate expense. I feel like I'm back to struggling like a single mother. I hate the position he's put me in to have to ask and the way he makes me feel when I do. I know that we're supposed to be one, and any money that we have is ours collectively, but I'm afraid that's not the case here. Do you have any suggestions for me?
Yes, I would have suggestions. That's an outrageous situation. And if the husband was the sole breadwinner, what he and his wife should do is determine how much she needs for the household expenses, for her personal care and so forth. And that amount should be put into a separate account every month without fail. And then there shouldn't be any discussion about it. And she has her own checking account and pays her own bills. In this case, the wife is earning the money. And she needs to set up her own personal bank account and pay bills out of it. And if she wants to give a little piece of her money back to the common account, by all means, let her do it. But set up some boundaries and limits and live with them. And this nickel and diming can drive you out of your mind and can destroy your marriage. And instead of having a loving relationship, you'll start to hate each other. You don't want that, all right?
Yeah, money's often the number one cause of marriage failure.
Well, you know, my wife, God bless her, has let me alone, and she trusts me to look after things. But I have made some colossal screw-ups, and she has very patiently gone along with it, but the Lord has blessed us. But we also do what I just said. I mean, there's a set amount that we've agreed upon that she needs, and she gets it. That's the end of it, you know.
This is Renan, who says, the Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 2, verses 8 and 9, that salvation is by grace through faith, and it's not by good deeds. But in James 2:24, he wrote that we are made right with God by what we do and not by faith. Could you clarify this?
Well, you know, Luther called James the epistle of straw. He wasn't too keen about that because he really believed in salvation by faith. But what James says is, you believe, and that's great, but I'm going to believe, and I'm going to show you that I believe by the way I live. So in truth, just making a profession doesn't mean a whole lot unless you back it up with your deeds. So you say, well, I believe God by faith, and And everybody says, well, that's lovely. Well, how do we know that? Well, look at the way I live. And so what James is saying, by all means, have all the faith you want to, but prove it by the way you live. There's no contradiction in the Bible. All right, what else?
This is Steve, who says, why would God create man when he knew that some of them would fail and be subject to an eternity spent in hell?
You know, I think some of these questions, God bless you, I think we overanalyze stuff. What is it, the thing they talk about, paralysis of analysis? But look, God made man in his image, and part of his image is the ability to make free moral judgments. God is not under compulsion, and if he made a man and all that man could do would love him on command, like the Stepford wives. I mean, God didn't want people like that. He wanted people freely to love him. And in order to have that freedom, they also had the freedom to fail, all right?
Okay, Barbara would like to know, should we tithe on the gross or the net?
You'd believe when Jim Baker was Secretary of the Treasury, we had this discussion. And he said, Ronald Reagan said it should be on the gross. And I think it depends on what your gross and net is. I mean, if you're a grocery store, for example, and you have $100 million in gross revenue and you've got only about $3 million in net, or you would tithe on the net, not the gross. But it depends on how your income is constituted for me to give you an answer on that. But you ask the Lord. The Lord loves a cheerful giver, and that's what he wants with you. Well, today's Power Minute is from Psalm 103. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. For Terry and I, this is Pat Robertson. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.